And some very tragic news coming in at the top of 11. 6 Air Force personnel have been killed. One has been critically injured after the Indian Air Force chopper, the Mi17, crashed in Arunachal Pradesh. The crash, in fact, took place barely 12 kilometers away from the Chinese border at Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang. The chopper, in fact, was on a routine sortie. Now, what we hear is that a court of inquiry has been ordered. The cause of the crash is still unknown. Bad weather could have been one of the reasons that led to the crash. But this is the latest news coming in. 5 have been confirmed dead in the Air Force chopper crash near Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang. A court of inquiry has also been ordered to establish what really caused the chopper to crash. But some very, very tragic bit of news coming in for the Indian Air Force just ahead of the Air Force Day. Executive Editor Gaurav Sawan joins us for more details and updates. Gaurav, this area is a familiar terrain. It is a high altitude area, but also is a hostile mountainous region. Can you give us more details as to where exactly did the crash take place?
Now, this Indian Air Force helicopter, it's an Mi17 V5. It's a medium lift transport helicopter. It had taken off from Tawang to one of the border posts. Now, this crash took place barely 12 kilometers from the India-China line of actual control in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, this is a very difficult flying area. The weather packs up very quickly. At this point of time, we do not know whether it's a maintenance issue, the real cause of the crash. That will only be known once a board of inquiry is completed. A board of inquiry has now been ordered. But from what we know is that this helicopter, it had taken off from Tawang. Tawang itself is high altitude,
yes,
about 11,000 feet. Just yesterday, I was reporting from Tawang. We were reporting, and we'd flown in one of the BSF Mi17 V5s with the Minister of State for Home, Kiran Rijiju, yesterday. Now, even at that time, when I was speaking to some of the pilots and air crew, they spoke about how difficult this terrain is and how difficult flying operations here are. The weather packs up within minutes. There are high mountain ranges, where in the past we've lost a chief minister of a state. We've lost the chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh in a previous helicopter crash when weather suddenly packed up. So in this case, we do not know. This Mi17 V5, which was transporting some personnel from one place to the other, it suddenly crashed, is the information we have at this point of time.
And this is tragic bit of news coming in, isn't it, Gaurav? Just ahead of the Indian Air Force celebrations tomorrow, and those very reassuring words coming in from the Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanua. The news of this Air Force crash really would just dampen the morale, at least for now.
It does dampen the morale, there's no doubt about that. But every crash that takes place, there are lessons learned. So, whether this was a maintenance issue, whether this was a technical issue, whether it was, weather packing up and the pilots not being able to assess, we do not know at this stage. By and large, in this area, you have very experienced pilots who are flying. The fact that this has taken place 12 kilometers from the line of actual control, it also goes on to indicate at this point of time that there is very heightened air activity that's happening in this area before winter restocking. Some of the passes here, they pack up. It'll start snowing in weeks from now. So all the winter stocking for troops, and this year, because of the current situation along the India-China line of actual control, heavier stocking of men, material, equipment, all of that is required.
And Gaurav, is that primarily the purpose of these sorties, to just transport those supplies ahead of the winter season, ahead of the onset of winters?
That is the heightened activity that is currently taking place. So this particular helicopter was on a training mission. It was also ferrying some military personnel from one point to the other. But that breakup, this crash, we're told took place between 6 and 6:30 this morning. Remember, first light is very early in the northeast. That's the land of the rising sun in our country.
Yes, yes.
So it's dawn a little after 4:30 in the morning, and by 6 it's well into the day. And flying is usually early early in the morning, because by 12 or 1, weather starts packing up, clouds come in, and because of the dense cloud cover, often helicopters do not take off post 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That is why flying starts early, starts around 5 and goes on till about 2 in the afternoon, unless it's a very lucky day like it was yesterday for us. We flew back past 2 o'clock yesterday, managed to fly through Bhutan into Guwahati yesterday, which is the route that helicopters usually take, but flying in that area is extremely risky.
Absolutely, and the terrain is in fact exceptionally hostile, also coming just ahead of the winter season. Gaurav, any more details on the 5 military personnel who were on board the chopper and who tragically have lost their lives?
Some details are available, but we are waiting for families to be informed first. The Indian Air Force has some details because the manifest was available, who were the people who were flying, but in this case families have to be informed first, and only then is that information given out in public. So there is a manifest that's prepared in the northeast, often to help civilians, not in this particular helicopter, but usually civilians are also ferried from one place to the other, because helicopters are the main transport system in different areas and in distant areas, but in this particular case, the moment families are informed, the names would be made public. Names and ranks of personnel will be made public.
Big tragedy there. Real tragic news coming in this morning, just ahead of the Air Force Day celebrations tomorrow. And yesterday also, the Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanua speaking of how the Indian Air Force is equipped to strike at nuclear sites in Pakistan, and also, talking about the focus being on upgradation and modernization, comes the news of this chopper crash in Tawang region in Arunachal Pradesh. We hear that 5 military personnel have lost their lives. One, in fact, has been critically wounded. This when the Indian Air Force helicopter crashed at Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. We have with us right now defense expert, Wing Commander Neb, who's joining us on the broadcast. Sir, good morning. Thanks so much for speaking to us. A very tragic news coming in there about the chopper crash at Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. Your reactions?
Very, very unfortunate, because we have lives of good pilots we have lost, and they were on a mission which is the routine army support we were carrying out. The timing is wrong at the moment for me, because the day after we're going to celebrate the 85th anniversary. Notwithstanding with that, the fact is, these are part of our life. We take it as it comes, because air missions are always risky missions. We know that. Everybody knows that, particularly about the Air Force. The point I'm making here is, without knowing the facts for which the court inquiry would have been ordered, and that would go in greater detail to find out exactly what went wrong. But we have a survivor, so we'll have a better investigation this time, who's injured. And of course, we lost the 5 pilots. That's very unfortunate.
Absolutely. And but sir, as you rightly mentioned, air missions are always very risky, and especially in that terrain. It is known to be a high altitude area. It's a mountainous region. Usually, if you could just give us more insight and more information about the pilots who fly these choppers, who are part of such missions, they obviously would be very senior and experienced, right?
Of course, there is a rigorous training which is conducted, which many people don't know, that during the peacetime, when we don't do any other thing which is not related to the operation, we are training our pilots. Training is an important point of our life, and which many people don't understand. Never mind on that. But the point is that they all are fully trained, capable people are sent. Otherwise, they are not sent for the task, right?
Yes.
So the people, those who are detailed for this job, they were competent and they were capable, and they must have encountered some problem which I'm not aware of at this point of time.
Which I'm sure the Court of Inquiry will find out. Sir, thanks so much for speaking to us. We also have with us Kumar Aga, the defense expert right now. Good morning. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Some very unfortunate bit of news coming in about the Air Force chopper crashing near Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. Your reactions, sir?
It's a very unfortunate,
I think we'll have to remove all these aging fleets of, be it a helicopter or a mixed fighter jets or others, from the army or air force. And the second thing, we'll have to adopt a European standard, of maintenance. This is a bit too much, Quite a few air crashes have taken place in the last a few years, if you look at it, and precious life lost in the process. So I think these two things are very important. Besides this, we don't know yet what are the reasons or cause for this crash. The area is hilly. That is also another problem, and high altitude, We'll have to wait and see, how much time, the inquiry reports comes up and till then. But these two things are very important, The spare parts, another problem, with the Army or Air Force are facing, because we have some of the planes, we are still using which are of Soviet era. So these are the things, we'll have to think about it and take immediate steps.
Right, sir. Thanks so much for your time. I'm going to go straight across now to Editor India Today, Sudhi Ranjan Sen, who is going to just explain to us the route that was taken by the chopper. Sudhi, the Mi17 V5 chopper, was it an old, chopper? Was it a dated one? Do we have any more information on the 5 military personnel so far?
Well, no. What we can say is that it was definitely an airworthy chopper, because they go through these routine maintenances. They're checked, they're let, and they're quite vigorous, these checks. It's unfortunate that it has happened. These are old airframes, but that doesn't mean that these airframes or these, helicopters are not good anymore, because they still continue to be the major the workhorse, so to say, of the Indian Air Force, whether in HADR, that's in floods or disasters. These are the helicopters that go in. These are the helicopters that are used for medium lift, that is, you carry in fuel, oil, all these things to these faraway distant posts. What we know about this as of now is that it took off today in the morning. It was on a routine maintenance sortie. It was carrying men and it was carrying in fuel rations to a forward location along the India-China border. It has crashed just 12 kilometers away from the border. Initial reports indicating that it did suffer a technical snag. We do not yet know whether it sent out a SOS message, a Mayday message, but that's not yet clear. That's exactly what the air headquarters and those in the formations there are trying to find out. One person critically ill, and it went down early morning today.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Sudhi, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll continue to get all the updates related to this unfortunate tragic crash in just a bit. But shifting focus, shifting tracks to some breaking news coming in.